Welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. In this podcast, I interview successful business leaders and industry experts to help you grow your business. In this episode, I had a very interesting discussion with Kevin A. McKenzie. Kevin is a sales professional. He's been helping out business leaders to achieve their goals and objectives, whether it's to improve a communication in a sales team or simply improve a sales process or build a sales team. He's been helping out business leaders for so many years to achieve their goals. Kevin also had to deal with some of his personal development challenges, and he also wanted to help out other sales professionals. So he's also author of How to Get Motivated, 123 Ways to Get Motivated and Stay Motivated. Now, we had a discussion on various topics of the business, leadership, success, sales, and motivation. If you're in any leadership position, you know that not only you have to motivate yourself, but you also have a responsibility to motivate your team to make sure they stay energized to achieve success for themselves as well. Kevin also talked about various topics, how motivation relates to discipline, work ethics, hard work, and various other items. He also talked about his experience when he was dealt with motivation challenges. What did he do to overcome some of those challenges and stay motivated when he was on outside sales? If you like this content, if you find a value from this content, don't forget to share this with your friends and also send us your feedback. Until next time, please welcome Kevin A. McKenzie. I guess welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. Today, my guest is Kevin McKenzie, Kevin A. McKenzie, to be correct. So Kevin, the topic we have is a motivation. This is critical for every business. Not only business leaders need to stay motivated, but they have a responsibility to motivate the teams. They got to make sure everybody keeps a high energy. So it's critical, I'm sure, for every business leaders, especially for the sales team as well. So one of those topics. So I'm looking forward to our discussion. Thank you so much for time, and I'm looking forward to learning from you.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited about the next hour or so that what brings.
Okay, so let's talk about how did you come around writing this book? How to get motivated, how to stay motivated, and there's 123 ways you documented in a book that people can use to stay motivated.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. So I've been in sales and customer service all my life, and what I really liked from an early on, my first job when I was 15 years old that I had for 10 years was working at my local pet shop, and you really had to be really good at sales and customer service, and also conflict resolution. When if you go to just a regular store and say this is broken, I need it, I need a replacement or something, yeah, no problem, here you go, it's pretty done. But when a customer goes into a pet store after getting advice or buying a product or buying a food or whatever it happens to be, and the customer and their pet has died or gotten sick as a result of what they perceive as bad advice, bad product, what have you, that there's a lot more emotion in there than a pen. And so when their pet, there's an issue with their pet, and that you really had to I really learned very quickly about being a diplomat and being careful with my words. And I always had two guppies, one of the most common aquarium fish, obviously should get along together, but the key word is should. So when they come in and say, this one killed this one, you told me they'd be fine together, you told me they'd be okay, and I said no, I told you they should be okay, because just like humans, you put two humans together, you never know what might happen. They should get along, but we often see what happens. So that progressed into outside sales role. And when anybody that's listening that's ever been in outside sales, especially with a large geographic territory, you're driving and you've got a lot on your mind. You're thinking about your last customer, you're thinking about your next customer, thinking about maybe you're making some phone calls at the same time. But you can't let what affected you at customer A bring with you into customer B. So when you walk into customer B, you can't be down, you got to be on your game, and you can't bring in that baggage. So I originally started writing the book as a sales book, but the first 2 or 3 chapters always circled back to, you got to stay motivated, you got to remember you're a diplomat of your company, this sort of thing. I'm like, I'm really talking a lot about motivation here. Maybe I should turn the book into a motivation, but do I have enough there? And I want to make sure that the person gets motivated, but more importantly, stays motivated. It's easy to get motivated, but then that usually will, peter off. You want to stay motivated. So I wanted it also as simple as 1, 2, 3. And that's when the light bulb went up. Easy as 1, 2, 3, 123 ways to get motivated. So away I went. And some of the ones were maybe a little bit too broad. So I was able to pick 2 or 3 out of that one. And I was able to make it into 123 ways to get motivated and stay motivated. And so one of the earliest ones that I learned, and actually my wife, Daniela, she used to work for FedEx. And so she was a customer service and she was on the phones. And so I learned from her that they're supposed to put a smile in their voice. I'm like, well, what's a smile in your voice? Well, I'll use my book as a prop. So if I go, good morning, how are you? Versus, good morning, how are you? It totally changes things. So even when you pick up the phone and you talk to somebody, whether it's a customer, your mother, a friend, somebody you've never spoken to, put that smile in your voice, and that way they'll know, wow, they're especially if they called you, wow, they're happy to talk to me. They just called me. And another quick story is when I started dating my wife, I parked down the street and I was in a good mood, but I didn't show it. So I'm walking along the street and close to the house, and then her sister happened to be outside, and she's like, Kevin, what's wrong? And I said, well, nothing's wrong. Why? And she saw me. I started to smile. Nothing's wrong. Why? And she's like, well, you were. I saw you from the car. You look like your dog died all the way down the street. And then I realized, oh, okay. I don't have to walk around looking like I'm Joker from the Batman, but I certainly want to, have a bit of a pleasant demeanor about me as I get out of the car. So if your customer is, whether they're working at a store behind the counter or in their office, and they look up and they see, oh, here comes a salesperson, or here comes my salesperson. Oh, wonder what's wrong with him. His wife leave? Did he get in a fight with someone? This sort of thing, because you're looking like a sad face until you get to the door, and then like, hi, you turned it on. So, I that's why I like to turn on some music and pump myself up a little bit as I'm I might listen to talk radio or the news or something like that. But the last few kilometers, few miles before the customer, one of my favorite songs goes on or something like that to get me in a pumped up in a good mood. And then when I pull into the parking lot, I'm ready and going, and I'm ready to sell if someone was standing in the parking lot. So so that way I overcome the first obstacle when you're first coming in and not being sort of standoffish and that sort of thing. So that's sort of where the book started. And I would encourage anybody listening to write their book. It's super easy nowadays with Amazon and other publishing platforms, Lulu Press, for example. And it's super easy to write your own book. And that way, if you're in sales, you can write something you're specific on, a topic that you're sort of an expert. And when they're like, what do you know about it? Well, I wrote the book on it. And even if it doesn't even matter if you sell a single copy, the fact that it's on Amazon, it's available, you can walk in right with it. Somebody looking for a job is another great example for somebody that wants to write a book. Because I've been, we were just talking right before you came on here, and we were talking about when I was looking for jobs, and I'd go to an interview, and inevitably when you're in sales, they always ask that question, how do you get motivated? How do you stay motivated? This sort of thing. Well, and then I pull that out, and I've already, pre-autographed it or signed it and put to my new friends at, XYZ company, whatever the company is. And that usually guarantees me a second or third interview. Might not guarantee me the job, but they're definitely going to remember me because now I've given this to them. So they'll be sitting on their desk when they're trying to flip through all the other resumes, and they'll keep looking back at the bright yellow book sitting on their desk. So that's sort of, I didn't intend it to help me to find jobs or open new doors or get into podcasts, but it certainly doesn't hurt. And I would recommend a lot of your viewers to give that a try.
Yeah. Well, writing a book simply means that you went deep on something. It's when you take a time and effort, you put a lot of work into it. Definitely, it's going to take time and effort. This simply means that you understand and you went deep on certain topic. And in your sales, you want people who went deep, not just I know a little bit of this, a little bit of this. You want people who went deep. So I think that's what stands out from when somebody writes a book. Wow, interesting. Lot to unpack. So a few items. I think
The way I look at it, a motivation, definitely thanks for walking us through with all the details how you came. But I think it starts from taking a responsibility for your motivation yourself. Very often we see a lot of salespeople blame events. Like, that happened. That's why my mood was not I was not in a good mood. So, I went to the next call. It didn't work out, right? That happened because of that. You're putting a responsibility on events that trickle down one after another for your own energy level or your attitude. But what you're simply saying is take a responsibility. That's where everything starts from. If you are responsible for your own attitude, own motivation, definitely that's where you want to start from.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, you can definitely, you can bring down the room with walk into a room with a sad face, or with a happy face, and look at everyone's faces and eyes and this sort of thing, and they're like, whoa, they want to know who's that just walked
Yeah.
in the room. He
Yeah.
excited the room, versus somebody that kind of wants to fly underneath the radar and not go and inspect a potted plant in the corner. That's somebody that you don't want to really engage with, at least to excite you. You probably should go and engage with them, because clearly they need someone to talk to and to boost up their self-confidence. But in terms of getting excited about seeing somebody walk in the room, somebody that has motivation and somebody that is confident and looking to make new friends, you can never be too old to make a new friend.
Of course. And so I'm trying to think, were you ever challenged with this motivation when you start thinking about, okay, I need to write a book, I need to focus on that? Was that one of your challenge when you start thinking about
What
how to say?
was I challenged
Yeah.
being sort of unmotivated?
Yeah.
Maybe to a certain extent, yes. I talked about those long drives, and when I first got into outside sales, it was a 5-hour drive on Monday for one of my calls. I was away overnights for a lot of times, and so driving from for 5 hours, I leave at 5 o'clock in the morning. I would get to my customer, and they hadn't even opened for business yet, and they come walking up, and they're like complaining about how tired they are. And the last thing I just want to go, how tired you are, like, let me tell you about my day. But I don't, you can't start that conversation like that. And
Yeah.
so I've always been attracted to different motivators. I've gone to different seminars and this sort of thing, and so this book has taken my own spin on it, as also taken from other things that I've learned in other places and put my spin on it, but from experience mostly. So that's I don't think I was ever an unmotivated person. I was always looking for consistently. We all get kind of down or unmotivated, or this sort of thing, or you get scrolling on that endless on the phone when you could be doing 1,000 other things.
Yeah.
But for consistency, I would say I've always been pretty motivated.
Very interesting. So one other question, one of my colleague Callum was asking a similar question. He wanted me to ask you that. He's the one who would discover your book, and then we were talking. So when you have a setbacks or you have a failure, you got pushback. How do you how do you get into in a zone again? How do you motivate yourself from those situations where you had a setback? Maybe that the deal didn't go the way you wanted to, or you just got a pushback from clients. So how do you pick yourself up? And I know you documented some of those stuff. If you talk about some of those important ones, how do you motivate yourself when you have some sort of failure?
That's a great question. It's easy to just, I'm just going to turn around and go back to bed, and I'll start again tomorrow. We all
Yeah.
love to do that sometimes, but the things that I would do is has to do with the start of the day. And so what I would do is I would get into some daily habits to keep yourself motivated and get yourself turned around. The biggest thing is writing your goals and objectives for the day. So we all think, it's a few months from now, January, you're going to start hearing people on the news or this sort of thing about writing their goals for the year, doing their New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
And they write it once a day, or once that the beginning, either the end of the year, the very beginning of the next year, to write for the next year, and that's it. And I like to write my goals and objectives at least once, if not twice a day. And so I'll write it first thing in the morning, after while I'm having my first cup of coffee, first of at least two, and then and sometimes in the even in the evening, especially if I've either had a big day, or I'm gonna have a big day coming up, I will do it in the afternoon or the evening as well. And so let's suppose I do it once a day, versus now who's going to win versus the person that wrote it once versus the person that wrote it 350 365 days in that year, let alone if they do it twice. Now you're at 700 plus. So you got to, that helps keep you focused, and so you're not procrastinating, and you're going to remain a little bit more focused and driven on those things, because it's a mind thing. Think about when you go grocery shopping, you have a grocery list, or maybe you're doing a to-do list. Maybe you do, one Sunday you're working around the house doing a bunch of stuff, and just picking up that list and doing that line on the piece of paper, it makes you feel accomplished. Hey, I did that. Okay, let's see what's next on the list. And it's that thing of crossing something off. So when you do something on the goals, and then the later that day or the next day, you look back on that goal and you can do that big check mark, or put, yes, I did that, or say, okay, I didn't quite finish that. Let's carry it through for tomorrow or the next day to make sure I don't have any loose ends. So you have to stay committed to and focused on the process.
So these are daily goals you're writing, Kevin, or is it a long-term
Both,
goals or
both.
short-term?
Yes,
Okay.
good question. So I would do monthly goals. I don't really do weekly goals. I might, in my monthly, I might do week 1, week 2, but I generally don't do like Sunday night, for the whole week. It'll be for the month, and it'll be for each day. So at the end of the month, about 29th, 30th, around there, I'll start jotting things down to look forward to the next month, even if it's just something to look forward to. It might not even be a goal. It's just like, going to the CNE, this sort of thing, and, date to be confirmed, something to look forward to, something that you see there. Oh yeah, that's something to look forward to. Okay, now what else do I have to do? And so you got to throw in some good stuff in there too for yourself.
So where does the big picture goals comes in? The big ticket item. Hey, listen, for next over the years, I want to be there. I want to be making this much money. Where does the big ticket item, big goals comes in?
I did try. I'm sure you and I are pretty like-minded. I don't know if you have seen The Secret. I'm sure you must have seen The Secret, where they have that vision wall, the vision board. I tried it once, and I never got behind it. I didn't do anything visually, but I did do those things. Once a quarter, could be once a year, where you just sit down and you just write, where you want to see yourself in March, where you want to see what you want to be doing in June. And then even beyond that, like, what's my 2030 goal, and write that out. And it's interesting to look back at it, a few years have passed, and geez, that's coming up next year. Let's see if, my goals are still aligned with that, or let's see if I've already accomplished it early, or, oh yeah, I totally forgot I even want to do that. Well, that doesn't interest me anymore. And, this sort of thing, but you still have to keep going back and looking at it, and having a refresher, just like, you got to keep going back to look at things to make sure that you're still on track, not necessarily looking in the rearview mirror. You don't really want to concentrate too much on the past, but you do want to make sure that you're hitting those goals.
Got it. So let's talk about a couple of them. I think a couple of them you mentioned are very important, Kevin. So how do you stay motivated? Some of the stuff you mentioned in a habit, you mentioned that, working out and going to, whether it's going to bed early, or the daily discipline around your life. I think that's one of the items you mentioned that in a book as well. How do people handle that piece? That's the difficult, it's easy said, but it's very hard to get a handle on, because now you're changing your daily routines around it, right? So how do people, you see, that get a hang of it?
Well, like anything, it takes repetition and practice. Repetition is the mother of skill. So you have to continue to practice these things, and make sure that your family is involved too, and tell your family members, or if you don't live with anybody, tell good friends and this sort of thing, so that they can somewhat keep you accountable as well, especially on the big ones, so that at the dinner table, then the discussion comes up, and the spouse or the kids can say, hey, how's this going for you, or you can talk about your goals and say, listen, I talked to you a few months ago. I want to do this. This is how it's going. This is what I want to do, going forward in that. And so make other people accountable. It's just, like the 12-step program. You've got a buddy system there. There's other programs out there that excuse me, encourage you to have a buddy system to help you stay accountable to yourself. But like I said, you got to leave the past where it is. Don't look in the rearview mirror, and just stay focused on the road ahead.
Yeah, one of the book one of my favorite book for Atomic Habits. I'm not sure if you heard of that, from James Clear. He was talking about the stacking. So you start from very small habit and you keep adding to it. So I think similar can apply to what you mentioned. Simply change one of your habit and you keep stacking other habits on top of it. Slowly, you keep one and then you keep adding another one. So over the time, when you look back, you made quite a significant changes to your daily routines.
Yeah, it's just like starting a new job. They're not going to expect you to be at the same level as a 20-year veteran. They're going to give you your tasks and expect you to do not do as many tasks as maybe the 20-year veteran, and not do it as quick as the 20-year veteran. But you'll get there. If they threw it all on you at one time, you'll be like, this job's too stressful. But in 10 years, you'll be like, I can't believe it took me all day to do that, and now it only takes me 30 minutes or whatever it is. So yeah, you have to incremental steps.
So how does that discipline relate to motivation, Kevin? A lot of people talk about discipline, a lot of people talk about motivation. And recently somebody told me, hey, even the days you don't have a motivation, if you have a discipline, you can still get through it. So, how does that relate from your any thoughts on that? How does those two relate?
How do what two relate? Sorry?
Discipline. Having a discipline for on your daily routine, and having a motivation, right? So somebody recently mentioned that, hey, if you don't have a motivation on a bad days, as long as you stay disciplined, you'll get through it. And then you can get back to motivation. So how does any thoughts on those two?
Well, I guess they do kind of go hand in hand. That you definitely have to have and I guess you could train yourself to be more disciplined for sure. But anybody that's already disciplined, chances are they're going to be much easier to get motivated or to stay motivated. Somebody that isn't is going to have to take those more of those incremental steps, more of those baby steps, and rely on their base of friends and family to keep them accountable, so that they can pass each challenge. And as they pass each challenge, have some sort of a reward, whether it's the reward as simple as crossing that off, or some other little reward to sort of get it in, sort of like Pavlov's dog. When you get that ring that bell, you're ready to go to the next task. And I also encourage people to see the sunrise every morning. Get up before, if you're in business, chances are you're getting up before your competition. You're getting up before any of your friends or family. Nothing I like better than sort of tiptoeing around the household at 5:30 in the morning while I get my coffee. And that's why I'm able to write my goals, do any little bit of work, nice peace and quiet. The sun hasn't risen, and neither has anybody else. And that way you can stay focused. Maybe you do some meditation or some sort of exercise, something like that to start your daily routine, because it's about getting into those routines. So and avoiding those bad routines that tend to weigh you down with things that are negative and things that are not accomplishing anything. I'll give you an example after my little sip.
Okay.
Excuse me. So, and that's to stop scrolling. We all got our phones. We all get in that habit, scrolling TikTok or scrolling Instagram or something, but it doesn't need to be 2 hours or 3 hours or worse, or at nighttime when you're looking at that blue screen. By eliminating just 15 minutes a day, you gain back like 5,500 minutes a year. So that's like 3 or 4 days. Stop for 30 minutes a day. It's like over 10,000 minutes, something like close to that, which is like 7.5 days. So what would you do with an extra 7.5 days out of your year? You could write that book, or read more books, or take up a hobby you've always been interested in, or learn a new skill, or this sort of thing. So I always even if it's I think in my book, I think I wrote eliminating 30 minutes of TV. I don't think I mentioned scrolling, because it wasn't that big of a deal back then. But so even if you're just like a TV watcher, eliminate those 30 minutes and you'll be amazed what you can accomplish with an extra 7.5 days a year.
Plus, you're watching negative content, right? Anything comes in,
chances are, and you're living other people's lives, watching other people live often unbelievable, unachievable, and often false lives.
Yeah.
So, try just, look in the mirror and live your own life. I remember seeing something on social media, as I bring up social media, many years ago. I think there's like a parade or something like that. And there was probably a few hundred people in a lineup watching this parade go by. And everybody that was under the age of 60 had their phone out filming this parade as they go by. And they zoomed in on a lady that was probably in her 70s or 80s, and her hands were on the railing, and she had a huge smile, and she was bringing in the memory and not fussing with a phone, not trying to get that Instagram clip. She was doing it for her own enjoyment and her own memories. And so sometimes let's just put down the phone and enjoy the moment.
Yeah, because it's a time is one thing, but then what are you doing to your energy level, and what are you consuming all day, right? So
Yeah,
if the negative content you're consuming, that does a more damage to you than simply just a wasting time on it sometimes.
yeah, exactly.
Very interesting. So we talk about, you can do a lot of work on yourself. You can keep yourself motivated. Definitely there's so many items you listed. But how about in a team environment, Kevin? There's a lot of team leads who are listening, or business owners who are listening. Definitely the responsibility. Not only you got to motivate yourself. Definitely a lot of work needs to be done on yourself. What can you do in a team environment where responsibility? You got to motivate your team as well. You got to make sure that they stay focused on the right things.
Yeah, my mother used to say, "Do as I do, not as I say," and so it goes by lead from the front. And any good salesperson has become an exceptional sales manager because they have seen it from the other side. People that go into the role and never was boots on the ground are often the ones that are saying, "Do it this way, this way, this way," behind their desk. By
Yeah.
leading in front and saying, "Hey, I totally understand. I did that too." Then you probably end up dating yourself and say, "Oh, 20 years ago, this happened." But at least you can tell them a story that is relating to their issue that they're having with their customer, their problem, their issue, their back order, whatever it happens to be with the client or what have you. And so by explaining it that way and coming across as, "Listen, I understand," and traveling with that person, having one-on-one mentor, whether it's whether the sales manager is the mentor or a fellow sales rep. I'll give you a quick example. When I started in outside sales in 1997,
Okay.
I met a sales rep that covered the London, Ontario area, and he sort of became my mentor. And he was, he was already a 20 to 30-year veteran in the field, and I just absorbed, all of his content in terms of his advice about the industry, about being in sales and life in general. And so I still continue to stay in contact with my original mentor. He's in his early 80s, obviously retired, but still sharp as a tack, and he could probably still sell me some snow if I was in Alaska. But that's the kind of mentors that every up and coming salesperson needs and wants. So I would highly encourage the anybody listening that has a sales team to partner up the senior with the junior, and you'll end up doing a lot less overseeing and this sort of thing, but you'll have a much happier team. I really enjoy helping the next generation of salespeople, and that's sort of a little bit the way I wrote the book as well, because it's good for anybody. That I don't talk a lot about sales in the book, but it certainly can be applied to people that are in sales as well as in other industries. But that's and I dedicate, actually, one of the dedications in the book is to my mentor Bill. And so I would encourage a lot of companies to adopt that approach and lead from the front.
Yeah, mentors play a key role in your personal and professional growth. They already travel the road. If you just follow them, definitely you cut a lot of time out of your growth, right?
Yeah.
I didn't come from a sales background. I came from technical background, and you and I both follow the gentleman Grant Cardone. He plays a very key role in my sales development or professional development, personal development. Even though He has nothing to do with my profession, but I learned so much from him. From his books. I never met him, but from his books, podcast, and all his content, I learned so much and helped me grow quite a bit over the last few years. Not only in a sales, but in a personal and professional development as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I would encourage anybody in sales. It doesn't have to be Grant Cardone. Could be anybody. Originally, I got pulled in with Tony Robbins. Went to one of his seminars and got to give him a high five as he was going by. And those kind of people are the ones that just they motivate you. If you can't afford to go to see one of them, watch some of their content on YouTube. That's free. Or if you can, get one of their books, that sort of thing to get you motivated, get you started. If you're just thinking about getting into sales, or to people that have existing companies that have a bit of a sales team, get them some of these books, encourage them, and don't just hand it to them and say that you should read that. And that there's nothing really there for them to they might read it, they might not read it, they might not even look at the book, but maybe have like a book club and have every month or every quarter hand out a sales book, have them read it over the X period of time, and then have at your next sales meeting talk about what was in the book, what you learned, the tips and tricks and things you took home for it. And that way it'll encourage them to read it and encourage them to talk about it, encourage them to learn about it more. And if you can bring in people that can talk about sales, I'd be happy to do something like that. I'd be thrilled to do that. Or bring in their different books, different guest speakers, all about that subject or that sort of thing. An informed sales rep is a very deadly sales rep for their client base, because you give them enough information to the point that they can't say no, because you've eliminated every obstacle.
Yeah, your team, on a daily basis, your team's bombarded with so many negative, whether it's political stuff, whether it's a negative news, and there's so much negativity online, offline, and you trying to, protect them with the positive content. You're simply saying, whether read a book or do something, but there's so much in the social media or on a TV, in digitally or non-digital, there's so much negativity out there. You're simply trying to, stay focused on that stuff.
Yeah.
Very interesting. What can you do? One of the items I interview a lot of people, and we are looking to build a team. I'm always looking for more people as well. Is there a way you can test a little bit of this motivation when you're talking to early on? I'm trying to think now, when you're selecting a team, making a decision on a is it the right person, but you also want to make sure that the motivation level is, first of all, is right for the company, and the second, are they really motivated the right way? It's wrong. It's not a reverse. They motivate, what can you do in that scenario? What can you test? What can you ensure that this person is motivated, right way for the company?
That's an interesting question, and I'm glad you asked it, because I've had that same issue where I'm talking to a new potential employee across the desk, and they're very quick to, or some of them are very quick to talk about their knowledge of the product or of the industry. But I want to hear about also stories about their interactions and their relationships, and how they overcome obstacles, how they overcome objections, how they overcome various issues with different personalities with customers. And so if all the product knowledge that from what the company is selling, I can teach almost anybody all that. It's great if you come with some of it, but you could be as green as they come and wet behind the ears, as they say. I don't mind. But if their willingness to learn, and their willingness to and adaptability to talk to different people, to overcome, be a diplomat. When you walk in, often they don't. When you walk into a business that I've been dealing with, I could have walked in every week for the last 2 years, or once a quarter for the last month, or last year rather. I'll walk in, and if often they don't remember, oh, Kevin's here. Oh, hey, Kevin. It's like, oh, XYZ company is here, because they remember you as the company, and because you're the diplomat for the company. You help them solve problems. You're dealing with, they're not having to call customer service or something. They're like, Kevin, this broke. Kevin, there's a problem with this. Kevin, I need extra time for my funding. Whatever it happens to be. If you're a good salesperson, you love helping to solve problems, and if you're good at it, you're going to be great at sales.
Yeah, that's human to human service. End of the day, somebody's willing to go out of their way to serve another human other side, whether it's in a sale or just an other service business. I think that level of motivation is definitely not only inspires team and also inspire the people that around them. Definitely, that kind of if you have that kind of attitude, is definitely, if you can test that part of that. And I'm always looking for that. Listen, whether I provide IT service or in a sales, when it comes to human interaction, are you willing to go out of your way to serve another person other side? If you are, then definitely that's the right kind of motivation. You want to keep those people.
Yeah, I remember when I first got into outside sales, and I went into a retail store. Now, I'd been in the industry for 10 years, but I walked into I've been on the industry in the retail side. And when I walked in, I was in my mid-20s. This guy, he wasn't even the store owner. He was a store manager. He was in probably his mid-40s, maybe close to 50. So he was essentially double my age at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of not regretted. He gave me attitude, and didn't give me the time of day, because he just thought this snot-nosed kid is coming in, and he thinks he's a big shot. And I never came across like that, but the company I was working for was well respected. Here I am coming in working for them, and so what I did was, everybody likes to talk about themselves. So what I did was, I asked him to talk about his his business, the company, about his how he got into this job, if he had pets himself. I just went through it all, and then I asked him about his advice on different products. Now, I'd been in the industry 10 years, so I knew most of the products, but I asked him, how would you sell this? Do you know about this? Can you tell me about this? And he
Yeah.
was like, oh, he's asking me. Yeah, okay. And
Yeah.
so all of a sudden, we slowly, it didn't happen overnight, but within a few weeks, all of a sudden we were, weren't best friends, but we respected each other a lot more. And it really was a sort of a turning point, and really helped out. Another one was a customer. He was in Kingston, Ontario, and I don't know why he was a business owner, because he didn't like talking about his business. He didn't like being at his business. He didn't like anything about it. But I found his Achilles heel, and that was the fact that he liked to talk about sports when it related to his kids. The kids, when they were in soccer, whether in hockey. And so I was able to, in a 30-minute conversation, probably just pepper in maybe 30 to 60 seconds of stuff that I wanted to say. It was hard to find, openings sometimes, and a segue that what didn't seem, forced. But after a while, I was able to, sort of master that. And a year or so later, I was at a one of our big trade shows, the biggest one of the year. And my boss wanted to talk to this customer about something. And he came back and he's like, Kevin, I don't know how you deal with this guy. He's like, he doesn't even want to talk about his business, blah, 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 blah. He complains about everything. And I said, try this. Ask him about his kid's soccer. Ask him about his kid's hockey game, and then just throw it in when you can. Don't go more than a minute every half hour. He's like,
Yeah.
okay. I think he thought I was kind of crazy, but he's like, I'll try anything. And so he left, and he came back. I don't know if it was later that night or the next day, and says, Kevin, your customer. He says, by me doing that, he says, I was able to get accomplished what I wanted, which was some big sale that he was promoting. And he said, Kevin, he says, obviously, your customer very well. He said, I was able to ask him exactly what I wanted to ask him. He was able to give me an order of what he wanted, all in between the breakaway shot that his kid had in the hockey game. So it was it just solidified me knowing that I know how to talk to customers. I know the different relationships. That didn't happen overnight. I knew this customer for at least a couple of years. I started realizing his pattern of behavior and this sort of thing. But all that was sort of helped me in coming up with the motivational book as well, about how to talk to people.
Yeah, you connected with the people on a different levels, not only on a
Mhm.
work level, but on a personal level, you connected with them on many different levels. And I think it makes it just, it makes a discussion very easy to
Yeah.
understand. And people connect. But the second point you mentioned, business owner now wanted to talk about their businesses. That boggles my mind. And why wouldn't you want to talk about your business? For last 2 weeks, I've been sending a lot of videos in a LinkedIn. You saw one of those, right? And
Yeah.
that's what we're talking. I send out probably about 286 video messages, similar to the one I sent it to you. So listen, to business owners
Yeah.
in the interior. Simply say, listen, I want to talk about your business. No obligation, no expectation, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of your time. Simply want to talk about it. I want to share that with the audience. That's all I want to do. There's no expectation, there's no cost, there's no obligation, just 15, 20 minutes. You know how many responses I get back? Very few.
Mhm.
I got about 4 or 5 responses back. I'm
Mhm.
still going to continue doing it, but I'm just surprised by that, because business owners don't want to talk about their business. If you're not going to talk about your business, how do you expect your team to talk about your business to help you grow and scale the business?
Well, to coin the phrase from the guy that we both follow, you got to remain interested and interesting,
Yeah.
and that was his take, Grant Cardone's, about and that's stands to reason with customers as well. When you have to be you have to stay interested in their business, and when you're talking, you better keep their attention by being interesting. And so I try and do both when I'm talking to customers, and it generally works in my favor.
Very good. Very interesting. So let's talk about you, Kevin. Where you are, what are you working on currently right now, and what's next for you?
Like I said, I've always loved sales, and I developed a sales model when I first got into sales, and it isn't sold just because it arrives at the customer's back door or their loading dock or what have you. It's sold when it goes out their front door, and it goes on their books as a sale. That's when I consider my product sold, because I like to help my customers, whether it's somebody I'm consulting for or if it's an employer. I always make sure that their customers feel like they're being looked after, whether I help them with a promotion or a display, or helping them with added value or adding value to selling it to a customer, so that they're not just buying that one item and leaving. You're getting multiple things as they purchase it, sort of like you want fries with that
Yeah.
back in the day. And so that's the way I've always developed. I've always told my customers, I'll do anything and everything in the store except bring it through the till. That's your job. You collect the money from your customers. I'll help you get that money. And so it's also with training, getting those employees of my customers trained up on my product. There's no use getting all this product in the store if nobody knows how to sell it or anything about it. So I like to, whether it's a lunch and learn or a seminar, I do like selling the product in the exact same spot where they're selling the product. So if that means in the aisle of a store, or beside them on the phone, or wherever they're selling the product, so that they're better to sort of retain that knowledge, because hey, I remember I was in this exact spot when I learned that information. So I like doing that. So I've been in a number of different industries. I'm currently employed now, but I'd be open to other opportunities, and I'm also doing some part-time consulting as well, which I enjoy. And so if anybody needs any help launching like a consumer packaged goods product, I do have specialty in pet, as well as in the vaping category and hardware. But most consumer packaged goods are pretty transferable with techniques and knowledge. So I'd be interested in helping somebody there. You can either go on Twitter at Kevin A. McKenzie to find me on Twitter. I'm on there pretty frequently, or you can reach me by email at iwannahelpyourbusiness@gmail.com.
Got it. Perfect. I'm going to include a link to both of those items below this video as well. People can
Awesome.
click, I'll also include a link to your LinkedIn page as well. So people can click a link and they
Great.
can connect with you. But hey, I thank you so much for time. I learned so much from you. I think any teams that any company, they're trying to grow their team, and especially in the sales arenas, if they're trying to grow their team, definitely you're going to make a huge impact in the business. And, business leaders who are listening or watching us, or team leaders who are listening and watching, definitely, I will recommend a copy of your book as well. There's 23 different ways of staying motivated. You don't need all 123 at the same, at the same time, but definitely start implementing 1 or 2 in your daily schedule. It will make a huge impact in your business.
Exactly.
Life, right?
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, I'll include a copy. So where can people get a copy of your book, Calvin?
It's on Amazon. You just go to amazon.ca. You can get it on either on a digital on Kindle or a paperback copy, just like this one here. And it's a how to get motivated and stay motivated. 123 ways to get motivated.
Beautiful. Yeah, I will include a link to Amazon below the video as well. People can click the button, and I will definitely recommend you get a copy of your book. And more importantly, reach out to you for discussion. Every discussion we learn so much, but who knows where the discussion can take you. But so much to learn from your book. There's 123 ways to stay motivated. That's a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But you need that. I think one of the challenges when the tough time comes, we kind of drop all of that stuff, right? We go back to our normal behaviors. I think that's when you need to be reminded by these ways, which one works for you, and just adopt those ones to move forward.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Good. Thank you so much for your time, Kevin. It was a pleasure talking to you.
I appreciate it. Thanks again. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.